Hello, and welcome to Chapter 3, A Heroic Journey. Before we get into the story, it's interesting to note the chapter suit, because the chapter story will center around the designer of the chapter suit. The chapter suit for Chapter 3 is Snow Night Hawk, designed by Lowen. So we know that the story in Chapter 3 will center around Lowen. So, where do we leave our intrepid adventurers at the end of Chapter 2? Due to the danger involved in searching for Leonid, Lowen and Nikki have decided to join forces. Lowen had Leonid's manuscript, and Nikki had the diamond that is required to see the writing in the manuscript. Even with the diamond, though, the text is indecipherable, so Lowen and Nikki set out to find a way to decipher Leonid's manuscript. Lowen gives Nikki the diamond and the manuscript to keep safe, and that is the end of Chapter 2. Before we get into Chapter 3, let's talk briefly about Leonid's manuscript and what we know about it, which really is not a lot. We learn in the story from the Leonid Twinkle Twinkle reflection that Leonid gave the manuscript to a girl that had been his test subject as he made his first designer's reflection. She was also the first person whose fate he changed. The manuscript contains Leonid's thoughts on paper, but since he invented the written symbols himself, the girl is unable to read it, nor is anybody else apparently, because Lowen and Nikki can't read it either. When we look at the Twinkle Twinkle profile, there is a section devoted to the manuscript. It reads, "The cryptographic words seem to have proved the existence of some mysterious, strong power. Fought for by a variety of forces, its ownership changing several times, it went lost during a war in the end." And this is all we know about Leonid's manuscript thus far in the story. We don't know how Lowen came by the manuscript, and the diamond used to see the symbols is not mentioned in the Twinkle Twinkle reflection story and has not been mentioned again after Chapter 2. We'll see if the diamond ever comes back into play, or if it was truly just a MacGuffin whose use has concluded and is therefore no longer needed in the story. So, Chapter 3. Chapter 3 opens with Lowen driving way too fast for Nikki and Momo's comfort. They are in the countryside of Shadowflow, which is a city in the Apple Federation. They are going to visit Mayor Rodell, who is the mayor of Shadowflow. However, before they go inside, Nikki finds a photo that has fallen out of Lowen's pocket during the bumpy ride. It is a photo of a teenager in uniform who bears a similarity to Lowen and appears to be 16 or 17. He is standing next to a handsome man who seems to be his comrade, and between them is a boy. I believe that the teenager in uniform is Lowen because as Nikki is walking up to Mayor Rodell's house, she sees the shadow bridge in the distance. Looking at the photo, she realizes it's the same bridge as in the photo and has a moment of designer's inspiration. She has a vision of the boy in uniform at the foot of the bridge, gun in hand, and disappearing into the smoke of battle. This is a designer's inspiration for the outfit Snow Night Hawk, which was designed by Lowen, therefore the boy in uniform has to be Lowen. She attempts to give the photo back to Lowen, but he is too far away, so she holds on to it. And just, the photo is how Nikki and Momo accidentally slip into Lowen's spirit world in Mind Maze Chapter 1. He starts thinking about the memories of that photo, and then they are accidentally transported to his spirit world. We're not going to go into that story, the Mind Maze story, but that's how they get into his spirit world, is with this photo, when he starts thinking about the memories of this photo. All right, so she attempts to give the photo back, but he's too far away. Mayor Rodell and Lowen appear to be old friends who haven't seen each other for many years, but Lowen says that's because Mayor Rodell commissions him out for free. Nikki realizes that the handsome man in the photo next to the young Lowen is a young Rodell. Mayor Rodell tells her that yes, that is him, and that he and Lowen fought together in the Apple Federation's War for Independence, and that Lowen was awarded a medal for his heroic actions. Lowen admits to pawning the metal for 100,000 gold. We then learn why Lowen brought the group to Shadowflow. There seems to be an illness among the Shadow Bridge operators. They are randomly raising and lowering the bridge and losing consciousness, which is causing injuries and financial losses. Nikki remarks that it doesn't seem like an illness if only bridge operators are contracting it. Lowen says that they will investigate more when they go into town. The next day, the group, including Mayor Rodell, are traveling into town over the Shadow Bridge. As they approach the bridge, Lowen cryptically says, "Just wondering if they're ready for us." Nikki asks what he means, but he doesn't answer. So every character in this story is playing a deeper game than Nikki, and even her allies do not tell her the games they are playing or the chess pieces they have put into place. We'll see this as a recurring theme where Nikki is being played by an ally or an enemy or both at the same time. So the bridge starts to rise unexpectedly, just as they are crossing it. Rodell speeds along the elevated bridge to try to jump the gap before it gets too large, and then suddenly Rodell lets go of the steering wheel and his hands hang eerily in the air as if he is a puppet. Lowen takes the wheel and floors the accelerator, and they jump the gap. One of the tires pop as they land on the other side. Lowen then manages to drive the three-wheeled car through the streets of Shadowflow and parks behind a souvenir shop. Lowen says he will take the unconscious Mayor Rodell to the hospital, and he tells Nikki and Momo to wait for him. Lowen leaves, and Nikki wonders what is going on because it seemed as if Mayor Rodell was being controlled. There is a school trip going on next to Nikki and Momo. The guide is showing the students a war memorial engraved with a quote from Major Snowhawk, a hero from the Apple Federation's War of Independence. A young girl, seeing Nikki's pink hair, comes up to Nikki and introduces herself as Susan. She says that a person named Lowen asked her to find Nikki because he was a person in a coffee house, because he has no money to pay his bill at the coffee house. He needs Nikki to come pay his bill. This confuses Nikki because she thought that Lowen had gone to the hospital, and she's wondering why is he at a coffee house. But she decides to follow Susan to the coffee house and Lowen. However, before they leave, Susan asks Nikki to enter the Major Snowhawk contest at the souvenir shop in order to win the Major Snowhawk war medal that is the prize. Nikki wonders if this is the medal that Lowen pawned. Susan says that she really likes Major Snowhawk, and she's seen a picture of the gun owned by him. The gun is called okay, I'm all over the place. Let's back this up. There's the medal. There's Nikki wondering if that's the medal that Lowen pawned. There's Susan saying that she really likes Major Snowhawk. She's seen a picture, and here we are. I'm caught up. We've got our slides and my narration together again. The gun is called the Snow Night Hawk, and she wonders if the gun performs miracles. If you'll remember, memories are woven into a suit. When Nikki interacts with these memories, she then understands the designer's inspiration, which created the suit, and she's able to recreate the suit. When Nikki saw the vision of the boy at the base of the bridge disappearing into the smoke of war, she felt the designer's inspiration for the gun, Snow Night Hawk, and she was able to recreate it. With her recreation of the gun, she easily wins the contest and the medal for Susan. As Susan, Momo, and Nikki walk to the coffee shop to meet Lowen, they notice that this new area of town is more deserted, which is worrisome. Then they see a woman with the same blank stare and fitful movements that Mayor Rodell had just before he went unconscious. There are more puppet people behind the first woman, and then Nikki and Momo notice that they are completely surrounded. Nikki is still worried that it is a disease. Then one of the puppet people begins to attack them. Lowen suddenly shows up and fights back the attacker. Nikki asks Lowen, why would infected people attack? And Lowen tells her that they are not infected, they are mind-controlled. He says that since styling battles actually occur in the spirit world, that a strong stylist can affect an opponent's mind and even mind-control them. Nikki asks if this is the enemy who is mind-controlling these people, and Lowen replies that it's one of the enemy's peons. And by the way, this is the first time that we've heard the word enemy. In chapter 1, Lowen tells Nikki and Momo they're on to you, so be careful, but he doesn't say who they are. And in chapter 2, Lowen says that searching for Leonid might be dangerous, but this is the first time that a singular enemy has been mentioned. Lowen tells Nikki to wake the mind-controlled people with her styling power. Nikki tells the player that since styling battles affect the spirit world, then she should be able to change the state of the person's mind and wake them. Through the use of her styling power, Nikki is able to wake some of the Shadowflow residents. Lowen tells Nikki to take Susan and leave. He says that he can wake the remainder of the puppet people by himself. He removes the clip from his gun and then fires the gun at the residents without bullets. There are traces of golden light each time he pulls the trigger, and the Shadowflow residents recover one by one. Nikki is in awe of Lowen's styling powers, and now understands exactly the power that a strong stylist wields in Mirrorland. She sees that they can change minds and change the world, and she wonders when she will be this strong. Lowen wants to go to a crowded area because it is harder to mind-control people in large crowds. Once they are back in a safer, more populated area, Susan tells them that if this is Lowen, then the man who sent her, the man from the coffee shop, who sent her to find a pink-haired girl named Nikki, was not Lowen. So Nikki realizes that someone had impersonated Lowen in order to get her to a deserted area of town. Susan is tired from walking, so she asks Lowen to carry her. After Lowen picks her up, she suddenly goes quiet, and everyone assumes that she is tired from all of the excitement. Then Lowen stops suddenly, turning pale and blood seeping out from under his clothes. Susan, who had just stabbed Lowen, pulls the dagger out, takes the folded manuscript from his pocket, and runs away with the same twitchy, convulsive movements that marked all of the other mind-controlled people. Lowen crumples to the ground with his hands over his chest. He reassures Nikki that he's not going to die, and he tells her to go wake Susan. Susan, being chased by Nikki and Momo, runs to a train station and jumps on a train. Nikki knows that she's walking into a trap, which makes her afraid. But then she hears the disembodied voice of a boy, and he says, "There is no need to be afraid. Winning or losing is not related to strength. It is connected to your faith, so don't be scared." Nikki remembers her vision of the boy under the bridge holding the gun, and she wonders if that is Snow Night Hawk. Now here, the gun is called Snow Night Hawk. The outfit is called Snow Night Hawk. And then we have Major Snow Night, Major Snowhawk. I think, is she talking about the gun? I'm not sure. It's the word is used so much. She does say Snow Night Hawk. That's the outfit and the gun. So maybe she's wondering if the boy is holding a Snow Night Hawk. Or I wonder if she's wondering if the boy is Major Snowhawk. I'm not sure. So, is Major Snowhawk also called the Snow Night Hawk? I'm not sure. The name, like I said, is used quite liberally for various things. All right, so let's continue. Nikki, finding her courage to continue with the help of the boy, follows Susan onto the train as it leaves the train station. The train is empty except for Nikki, Momo, and Susan. Susan sits at the front of the train, immobile and unresponsive. Nikki wakes Susan with her styling power, and Susan, no longer mind-controlled, immediately falls asleep. Where are we at? There she is. Oh yeah, there she is waking. Okay. Waking Susan with her styling power. There we go. And Susan, no longer mind-controlled, immediately falls asleep in Nikki's arms. Nikki notices that Susan is no longer carrying the folded manuscript that she took from Lowen's pocket, which means that the enemy, or the enemy's peon, is somewhere on the train with them. Nikki and Momo turn their attention to the train, which has been speeding along this entire time and is now moving on to the Shadow Bridge. Suddenly, the train shakes violently, and they're thrown back into the seats as the Shadow Bridge begins to rise, and the train continues to speed along, approaching the rising part of the bridge. As Nikki stands holding onto the seat for stability, she notices a thin figure in the corner of the train, and that thin figure says, "Victory is mine." The train comes to a precarious stop at the top of the bridge. Anything that upsets the balance will send it crashing down into the raging Shadowflow river below. The man admits to controlling all the citizens and Susan, and introduces himself as Vulture. He pulls out the folded manuscript that he got from Susan and says, "My job is to deliver you and this bunch of papers to him." Vulture never does reveal who his employer is. He tries to mind control Nikki, but she is too powerful, and then they get into a styling battle. Nikki defeats him easily, and he says, "No wonder he has his eyes on you," before then telling her, "If that's the case, then die. And I don't know why Vulture decided to kill Nikki. It seems his employer would be unhappy with that outcome if he wants him to bring Nikki to her, we don't know, to his employer. So I guess it's lucky for him that he actually fails in killing Nikki. Vulture pulls out a detonator. This is him trying to kill Nikki. Vulture pulls out a detonator and presses the button, causing some bombs he had set to explode. Nikki shields Momo and Susan with her body, protecting them from the shrapnel that's flying towards them. Sorry, I had to let my dog out of the room. No respect while I'm trying to record, right? Let's continue. Shrapnel flying towards Nikki and Momo and Susan. Nikki shielding them with her body. Then a snowflake necklace that's dangling in front of Nikki's eyes suddenly glows gold. And here, I'm going to stop for a moment. I have looked everywhere for a reference to this necklace, but I can find nothing. The chapter suit for chapter 3 is Snow Knight Hawk, designed by Lowen. Snow Knight White is his cousin, and she wore this uniform when she left her hometown for the battlefield, when Apple Federation's War for Independence first began. Snow Knight White is Lowen's cousin, and she is also the older sister of Vermilion Snow. When Snow Knight White was 17, the Apple Federation's War for Independence began. Lowen was 13, and Vermilion Snow was 7. The Apple Federation at that time was colonized by and under the rule of the Pigeon Kingdom. When war broke out for independence, Snow Knight White enlisted. 6 months later, she was dead on the battlefield and never came home. Feeling her sacrifice acutely, as well as the sacrifices of all the soldiers who didn't come home, Lowen, at 13 years old, enlisted in the army and joined the battle. Snow Knight White, when they found her dead on the battlefield, had a single bullet left in her gun, and her father, who is Lowen's Uncle White, gave the bullet to Lowen when he enlisted. Lowen was a natural tactician and soldier and rose to the rank of Major, becoming Major Snowhawk and the youngest Major in Apple Federation. After the war, Lowen left his Major Snowhawk identity behind and became a mercenary, a soldier for hire. The story of this suit centers around Snow Knight White's enlistment and subsequently her death, and 13-year-old Lowen's internal call to duty as he then also enlists in the army. I think the snowflake necklace was supposed to be Snow Knight's necklace, but they forgot to include it as part of the suit, so we have an orphaned suit piece, and we are left to guess at its significance. So let's get back to the story. Vulture has detonated the bomb. Nikki covers Momo and Susan with her body, shielding them from the shrapnel hurtling towards them. And then the snowflake necklace that's dangling in front of Nikki's eyes suddenly glows gold. A young teenager emerges from the Gate of Heart with a gun and stands in front of Nikki. This is the designer's reflection, a 13-year-old Lowen from the suit Snow Knight Hawk. He stands in front of Nikki and deflects all of the shrapnel with his body and then disappears. A shard of the personality mirror, which I'm assuming is the designer's reflection mirror, materializes and lands in Nikki's palm in the shape of a bullet. Nikki realizes that designer's reflections that she can summon contain the spiritual powers of the original designers. Vulture, undeterred by his failure to kill them, tries again and explodes more bombs outside the train, which causes the train to rock and teeter. Oops, we're here. Which causes the train to rock and teeter, about to fall into the river below. And I honestly don't see Vulture's endgame here because he's also on the train, and clearly neither does Momo. Luckily for everybody, including Vulture, Lowen shows up in the nick of time. He has hooked the train up to a steel cable, and with a single shot from his gun, he knocks the detonator out of Vulture's hand. Vulture is surprised to see Lowen because he is supposed to be injured from the stab wound from Susan. However, Lowen, who was injured, but it was a minor injury, had feigned the severity of his injury in order to send Nikki by herself to find Susan. Vulture, who underestimated Nikki but not Lowen, would then feel confident enough that he had the ability to overpower his opponent, Nikki, and would reveal himself. Vulture quickly throws another bomb at Nikki. Lowen steps forward and shields the group from the explosion with a golden barrier. By the time the smoke clears, Vulture has disappeared. But our heroes are not out of trouble yet. The train is full of bags and all the bags have bombs in them. Lowen tells Nikki and Momo to get out, and he'll catch up with Susan. Some of the bombs begin to explode, and the train begins to collapse as they all run towards the Shadow Bridge in safety. While they're running, the explosions wake up Susan, who is still in Lowen's arms, and she asks if he is Major Snowhawk. He tells her that he is and that she has to keep her eyes closed. While he continues to run, more bombs explode behind them, and Susan tells him that she's scared, and he tells her that the explosions are fireworks. Lowen leaps into the air and onto the last car as part of the train explodes and falls into the river behind him. Nikki and Momo, who have made it to the bridge, see that he's about 5 meters away from safety and that he's not going to make it. The last car begins to fall into the river with the rest of the train. The smoke, the fear, the desperation, these all feel familiar to Nikki, but she knows that they're not her memories. They're the memories of the Snow Knight Hawk. Nikki yells, "Lowen, do you believe in me?" And Lowen smiles, takes 2 steps, and leaps. She then summons the designer's reflection of the Snow Knight Hawk. A snowflake transforms into a breeze, and Lowen, with Susan in his arms, walks briskly on the wind and lands in front of Nikki, now safe from the burning wreckage of the train. That's our action. It's an action movie in story form. So 2 days later, after everyone is recovered, Nikki asks Lowen what Susan took from him and gave to Vulture, and Lowen tells her that it was a fake of Leonid's manuscript and that Nikki has the real one. He admits that he brought Nikki to Shadowflow to lure out Vulture, And like I said, we'll see this a lot. Nikki being used unwittingly as a pawn by both allies and enemies alike. This will kind of come to a head in chapter 4, but I don't want to spoil anything, so we'll just keep that on the DL. All right, so Lowen then tells Nikki that they should separate, that Vulture will come after them once he discovers that he has a fake manuscript. He says that he'll let it be known that he has the real manuscript, which he won't, Nikki will, but he's going to put out the rumor that he has it, so that they will focus on him and come after him. And while he's doing that, he wants Nikki to find a way to decipher the real manuscript, the manuscript. After saying goodbye to Lowen, they run into Joy. She wants to travel with Nikki in order to become a great stylist. Nikki warns her that it will be dangerous, but Joy wants to come along just the same. And we'll wrap up chapter 3 with a bit of fictional wisdom. Never travel with Doctor Who as a companion, and never travel with Nikki as a companion. It never ends well for the companion. And that is the end of chapter 3. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll talk to everyone later. All right, bye.